you got your very own Rubik's Cube, and you found out very quick that it's not as easy to solve as you thought. You mixed it up a little bit, and then you got kind of lost in moving the sides around, and you're like, well, I'll go onto YouTube, and I'm gonna find a very quick video on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. But you only come across these videos that are either more confusing, or it's of someone that moves a cube a couple ways, remembers where they moved it, and moves them back, and says that's all you have to do to solve a Rubik's Cube, but it doesn't help you out at all. Well, you're lucky you came to my video then, because I am going to walk you through 7 easy steps of how to solve this cube and get you solving a Rubik's Cube on your own in under 5 minutes. That's right, you're going to be solving your very own Rubik's Cube any way it's mixed up in under 5 minutes, guaranteed. Let's get right into it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Broken Image Gaming with your host Broken Image. And today we're going to change this into this. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So on screen, you see my Rubik's Cube. It's actually solved all the way. 6 different colors are in their proper orders. First thing, what we want to go over with is the terminology behind the Rubik's Cube. So what we're going to do is I'm going to display some things on screen right here on the bottom of, well, let's see. But I'm going to display some words on screen right here on some terms on screen right here on the bottom of the screen. It'll be a lot easier to learn the algorithms using these terms right here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to understand how a Rubik's Cube is set up. You have your different faces, and the faces are always going to correspond in this way. They're always going to be oriented this way. Your yellow and white faces are always going to be opposite of each other. The red and orange faces are always going to be opposite of each other. And the green and blue faces are always going to be opposite of each other. So knowing that these faces will always be like this corner, the white, green, and red corner will always be the white, green, and red corner. You'll never have a white, like the red, green, and white corner will never be oriented in a different place. This orientation, if this makes sense at all, this orientation will always be like this. So the second thing you have to do when thinking about a Rubik's Cube is thinking about it in layers. You're not solving faces. You're not going to solve the white face, then the red face, then the green face, then the orange face. You're not going to solve it in faces. You're going to solve it in layers. So with this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out solving the Rubik's Cube by solving the white face first, because you do have to solve one face first, but then I'm going to be solving it in layers from the top to the bottom. The third thing you want to do is thinking about a Rubik's Cube is whenever you're doing algorithms, you want to know where the cube is oriented. So if the white is on top, then whatever face that's facing you is going to be your front face. This is going to be your right face. This is your left face. This is your bottom face. And this is your back face. There's only one algorithm that we're going to be using the back to rotate the back around. So this would be the back right here. When we rotate this would be rotating the front 90 degrees clockwise and front 90 degrees counterclockwise that way. This will be rotating the right 90 degrees counterclockwise and rotating the right 90 degrees clockwise. This will be rotating the left 90 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise. And the bottom, this is rotating the bottom 90 degrees counterclockwise, and this is rotating the bottom 90 degrees clockwise. So whenever you see my algorithms on screen, the terminology, the L, the R, L would be left, R would be right. If you see a little asterisk, if you see a little apostrophe after the R, that means it's going to be counterclockwise. So if I say R apostrophe, that means I'm going to be my R counterclockwise and 90-degree rotation that way. If you see an R or an L or a letter with a quotation marks over it, that means that the side, the layer, you're going to be rotating it 180 degrees. So it doesn't matter if you rotate it clockwise or counterclockwise, you just rotate it 180 degrees in one way. So that side would be moved to this side. Knowing that, let's jump into the cube. Let me just mess this cube up a little bit. All right, so the cube's messed up quite a bit. The first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find a face to solve first. What I usually do is I solve the white face first because it's got this nice little Rubik's emblem on it. I like to get that out of the way first. The first thing we want to do is when we're solving the white face first is we want to make a cross and white tiles on the top of the white face. And to do this, we have to make sure that the tile that we put here, the white tile we put here, corresponds with the face that the tile should be corresponding with on those edges. This tile would have to be the white and orange tile right here in this area. This tile would have to be the white and green, and so forth and so forth. And to do this, it's really simple. You just look around the cube. Like right here, we already have the white and red tile. So the white and red tile needs to go over here. A simple way to do that would be to take this side, turn it like this to where the red tile is on the side and it's not facing the top or the bottom, because you want the red tile on a side. It's either going to be on this side, or you could turn it to make sure the red tile is on this side, keeping your white on your top, right? So if the red tile is on the side, then just orient whatever face that is to where the white tile is facing the bottom. So now your red tile will be on a side or a back or a front. It's not going to be on the bottom or the top. And then all you have to do is move your bottom tile, your bottom layer, over to where the red tile matches up. Then you make a 180-degree turn and move your red tile in the place that it needs to be. Now this red and white tile is where it's supposed to be oriented onto the cube. Now let's do the same thing for the blue, the orange, and the green spaces. If your white tile is oriented already like this and you have your orange tile like that, it's a lot easier to just move this where your orange tile is oriented and then move your white tile up. Now we have that. So our white and blue tile. So let's make sure our white and blue tile is oriented onto the side of the face and then move our white tile up. Now we moved our red tile this way, so let's move our red tile back. Now let's do the last for the green face and move our green tile over, our white and green, and just rotate that up. Now we have the cross pattern. This is what your first design in solving a cube needs to look like. And you have to have your tiles. It should look like a cross pattern with a blue line, red line, a green line, and an orange line on your sides. So once you have the cross pattern, we're going to solve for our corners. This first tile, what we want to do is we want to move a corner into its spot. So let's look at this face. This is the blue, orange, and white face over here. This is our blue, orange, and white tile, but it's in the wrong spot. So let's go ahead and move that down out of there. And let's move this back so we keep our cross, right? So let's move our blue, orange, and white tile right here into the bottom layer whenever our white layer is on top. So this tile, we want to go into this spot. Use this algorithm. Move your bottom clockwise, move your left clockwise, move your bottom counterclockwise, move your left counterclockwise, and it moves it into that spot. You just keep doing that till this is oriented into the right way to move this white up into this. So clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter, right? Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. See how it's moving around? Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. And we're going to be moving it last up in there. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. And now our blue, orange, and white tile is in its spot. Now we have our white, green, and orange tile. This is our white, green, and orange spot. So that tile needs to go here. So let's move that tile down here below that corner. And let's do that again. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Clockwise, clockwise. You just keep doing this until it gets into its spot. Now that's in its spot. So this is actually in the wrong spot. So let's go ahead and move that out of there. You can move that out of by doing clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Move it out of that spot so it's down here. So let's move this over here. We're going to be moving this blue, red, and white tile into this spot right here. Let's go clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. Clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter. And now it's in its spot. So let's move the last one in here. We could do that to orient it into this spot, but if you actually pay attention to where this is, you can see that this red needs to go into this spot and this white needs to go into this spot. An easier way to do that clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter is you could just move it counterclockwise and move this down to move this in there like that. And then just move it up in there like that. So you can keep doing that clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter, or you could just do it that way. And now we have our white face solved, and our lines right here, the blue, orange, we're actually making a T on these other faces, on our green, red, and blue and orange faces. We actually just went through step 1, making a cross, and step 2, moving your corners into their spot to orient them to where you have your white face solved. Now, once you feel comfortable with that, once you play around with that algorithm enough and you feel comfortable moving on to the next step, let's go into the next step. Step 3. Step 3 is actually moving the middle layers. We're going to be working with this middle layer now on the cube. These are your side tiles. We're going to be moving our side tiles into their spots. This is our middle tile, and these are our corners. So we're going to be focused on moving our side tiles into their spots. So this tile, we're going to be getting the red and green tile and putting it right here and orienting it right. This, we're going to be moving the blue and red tile into this spot, the orange and blue tile into that spot, and the green and orange tile into that spot. So as you can see, some of the side tiles are already in spots that they're not supposed to be. You use this algorithm that's on the bottom right here to move the tiles out of their spot and into this bottom area. All right, so the next step is we're going to be moving our side tiles into the side tiles right here. So to do that, you use this next algorithm that I'm about to show you, and it's going to move your side tiles into the tile that it's supposed to. So let's go ahead and find the blue and orange side tile, and it should be down here on one of these bottom side tiles. If not, it's actually hidden. And so here's your blue and orange side tile. So this should go here. To move that out of this spot, you just use this algorithm that you move these side tiles into their spot to move it out. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Bottom clockwise, left clockwise, bottom counter, left. Hold on. Clockwise, left clockwise, bottom counter, left counter, bottom counter again, front counter, and bottom clockwise, then front clockwise. So that moves that spot out of that area. And now we're just going to go ahead and find where that tile is. Here's the tile right there. And we're going to move it over here. And now how we're going to move this and orient it into its spot right here is we want to make a T with the orange tile. And if you make a T with the orange tile, this block at the bottom after you do the algorithm is going to be moving to the left side space on the tile. And whatever color this is will be right here. Whatever color this is will be right here after doing this, the same algorithm that you use to move that block out after doing that same algorithm. So let's go ahead and use that algorithm again. Bottom clockwise, left clockwise, bottom counter, left counter, bottom counter again, front counter, bottom clockwise, front clockwise. And you move that tile into its spot right there. But let's do that for the rest of these and move the tiles into the oriented spots. So we're going to be moving the green and orange tile into that spot right there, wherever the green and orange tile is. Let's go ahead and make a T with the green and do that same thing. And we move that tile into that spot right there. If you've noticed, I'm kind of stumbling over the algorithms because I've done this so much. It's more muscle memory for me now than actual think about which way I'm moving counterclockwise or clockwise. So I'm actually reading off a list because I went through me solving the Rubik's Cube on these certain algorithms and wrote down the different clockwise or counterclockwise movements. So if I stumble through and, you know, I mess up, then we'll just go through it again and I'll make sure I get it right. All right. So this next one, we have this down here. We're making a T. And if this is in a different spot, like if it's not oriented into a T, like say this is the green tile and this is the red tile, all you have to do is do this algorithm twice, 2 times in a row, and it'll orient it to where it's in a T again. The first time it's going to move it in here. The second time you do it, it's going to move it out and it's going to move it back to the back. So you just turn it like this, and it should be in its spot that it needs to be. So let's go ahead and orient it and move it into its spot. And now it's in its spot right there. Let's go ahead and make this T. Now look, here I get to show you the example now. Here, this T that we're trying to make, the blue is down here and the red's up here. So let's go ahead and do that algorithm, move it in here, and then do it again, and it'll move it out to this back over here. So let's go counter, counter, block, block, block. And there it is. It's inside this spot right here. Let's do that again. Counter, counter, block, 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 counter, counter. Now, you just do this twice. You just move the bottom of 180 degrees and you should have your T again. So let's do that one last time to orient to it into this spot. Counter, counter, block, clock, block, count, counter, block. All right, so now it's in its spot. If you just go by the algorithm that I showed on the bottom of this on the page, you should be able to get your cube to look like this. So after using that algorithm and after moving your side cubes into their spots, your cube should look like this. Once your cube, these 2 rows are solved, the next step, what we're going to do, and if you're comfortable with this, we're going to move on to the next step, which is step 4. And we're going to be making a cross in the yellow tiles on the bottom of this cube. So instead of having the white your top face, you want to flip your cube and make yellow your top face. And for the duration of the solve, we're going to keep yellow as our top face throughout the rest of this video. Your cube may look a different way than what my cube looks like. If your cube looks a different way, that's okay. There's different designs that we're going to go through about these tiles on this front to get different results. So right now we have, it looks kind of like a T like that, but we're not focusing on these corner tiles. We're not focusing on the corner tiles right now. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make a cross in the middle. So all we're going to be doing is focusing on these 5 tiles right here in the middle like this. The only tiles that are showing up in this cross are these 3 tiles. So if you have a horizontal or vertical line in these 3 tiles, make sure you orient your cube to where the line is horizontal and your front face is on below the horizontal line. So this is going to be our front face. This is not our front face because that makes this line vertical. This could be our front face too if we'd like, as long as this line is horizontal. So if this line is horizontal, we do this next algorithm, and this algorithm works for any orientation that's on this cube, and I'm going to show you the different orientations and how to orient your cube. So the next algorithm, we're going to make a cross on the bottom of our face. You do front clockwise, right clockwise, top clockwise, right counter, top counter, front counter. So that's what you do to orient your cube to make the cross on the top of your cube. Now, I had a line. Whenever you do that, you're going to be making a cross after the line. If you don't have a line on your cube and you have these 3 says we're not worried about the corners, right? If you have just an L, make sure the L, let's go ahead. I'm gonna make it to where we could have an L on it. So if you have an L like this on the top of your cube, what you want to do, you don't want your L to look like that, or like this, or like this. You want your L to be into the top left part, L for top left. You want it in this orientation, into the top left part of your cube. So as long as your L looks like this, you want to make your face down here, front clockwise, right clockwise, top clockwise, right counter, top counter, front counter. And then you'll have your line again. So let's just do that again. Front clockwise. And we have our cross once more. You may have one other design on the top, which is just a single tile, and all of these are not filled in. If you just have a single yellow tile, you don't have to orient it because it's just single. Just find you a face and do that same algorithm that we just went over until you get your L or the horizontal line. And once you get the horizontal line, all you got to do is make it horizontal, and then you will get your cross. Once you're comfortable with that algorithm, let's move on to the next step. Step 5, corner placement. Corner placement is a really interesting algorithm, and there's a way that you have to do it. So in corner placement, what you have to do is you have to take your what we're wanting to do is you're wanting to move these corners into the proper spots on the cube. This corner is not in its proper spot because this is the blue, red, and yellow face. This is not the blue, red, and yellow corner. The blue, red, and yellow corner is actually over here in this spot. So we want to get this corner over here in this area. And to do that, you have to swap corners on one side of the cube. So we can't swap these two corners yet. What we can do is we could swap this corner and this corner, or this corner and this corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my cube around, and I'm going to swap this corner and this corner. And then once I get this blue, red, and yellow corner into this area, I'm going to swap it from this corner to this corner and get it in its proper orientation. So to swap the corners, you make sure you make sure the two corners you want to swap is on the left or is on the right side of your cube. And once the two corners you want to swap is on the right side of the cube, then you do the corner placement algorithm. And the corner placement algorithm is left clockwise, top counter, right counter, top clockwise, left counter, top clockwise. Turn that back at top counter clockwise, top clockwise, right clockwise, and then spin the top around like that. That is not it right there. Let's redo this because I kind of screwed that up. I was reading the algorithm kind of wrong. All right, what we want to do is we want to move this yellow, red, and blue cube into the yellow, red, and blue spot right here. So in order to move the yellow, red, and blue cube into the yellow, red, and blue spot, we have to do this algorithm right here, and all we're doing is we're swapping these spots right here, the corner placement. So you do left clockwise, top counter, right counter, top clockwise, left counter, top counter, right clockwise, and top spin it around like that on top of 180. So once you do that, then you moved your corner into this spot right here. You moved your red, blue, and yellow corner into this spot right here. And you moved this block was in this spot. So all we did was we swapped these two spots right here. So this now is we want to move this orange, blue. Hold on, we want to move the orange, blue, and yellow tile into the orange, blue, and yellow spot right here. This is the orange, blue, and yellow side. So this tile has to go here. So let's do that same algorithm again. We go left clockwise, top, move towards the left, right counter, top moves towards the right. Left counter, top moves towards the left again. Right clockwise, then you double rotate on the top. So now we moved the two blocks to where it's oriented. We're making sure we're orienting our cube in the right way. So we have the blue, orange, and yellow block in its right spot because this is the blue, orange, and yellow side. We have this block is not in its right side because this is the red, green, and yellow block, and this is the red, green, and yellow side. This is the orange, green, and yellow block. This is the orange, green, and yellow side. So these two blocks we're going to have to swap. So let's put them on the left side and do the algorithm to swap it again. So let's do left clockwise, top moves to the left, right counter, top moves to the right, left counter, top move to the left again, right clockwise, then let's spin the top around in a 180. So now all of our corners should be oriented into their right spots. So we have it almost looks solved, but don't get ahead of yourself because it's not solved yet. So we have this corner is in its right spot. We're not worried about the orientation just yet. This corner is in its right spot. This corner it's in its right spot. This corner it's in its right spot, and this corner it's in its right spot because this is the red, green, and yellow side. This is a red, green, and yellow corner. This is the green, orange, and yellow side. This is green, orange, and yellow corner. So once you feel comfortable about that algorithm and you're moving your corners and swapping your corners into the right spots, we're going to move on to step 6, which step 6 is one of my favorite algorithms in solving the cube, and it's the algorithm I like to call the golden fish algorithm. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the design on the top of the cube again, and the designs we want to see several designs. So if the cube has a solid face on one side and it doesn't have a solid face on the other, but the solid face on your right side, you do this algorithm to solve what we're trying to do is you're trying to make a golden fish design on the top. That's the design we're looking for. And then after we get that design, then we're only 2 steps away getting all the yellow solved on the top of the cube. So put your solid face on this side, and if you have, I like to call them headlights, sometimes you'll have these 2 yellows on this side, and they'll be these 2 yellows will be oriented right here. If you have 2 yellow spots on this side and 2 yellows oriented right here, you want to put your headlights on your left. If you have a solid face, you put your solid face on your right on the cube. So that's the orientation that you want. If you have a diamond, I like to call it a diamond. It's where all of these are yellow and just this and this. These 2 tiles aren't yellow tiles. When you want your diamond or your arrowhead to be diagonal from the top left to the bottom right, and you want it to be sitting like this on the cube. And once you have your cube oriented in the ways that I've mentioned, you use this step to solve to try to get the golden fish. Your right counterclockwise, your top counterclockwise, your right clockwise, your top counterclockwise, your right counter, top 180, right clock, top 180 again. So our corners are still all in the spots that they're supposed to be. But now, as you see, we have our golden fish. It's a little pixelated golden fish, and he's looking up to the left. You don't want your fish to be looking down to the right, to the left, down to the bottom left, or the bottom right, or the top right. You want it to be looking up to the top left corner of your cube. So once you have your golden fish looking up to the top left corner of your cube, do that same algorithm again. You might have to do it twice to get all of the face solved on the top. So let's go to the right counter, top counter, right clock, top counter again, right counter, top 180, right clock, top 180 again. So we still have our fish, so that's good. I'm glad that we didn't solve it just yet. So one more of those algorithms and we're going to solve our fish where it's all yellow on the top of the screen. So let's go. Right counter, top counter, right clock, top counter again, right counter, top 180, right clock, top 180 again. We actually solved the cube. So our sides, the next step, our sides wouldn't actually need to be solved our sides would need to be solved, like these side tiles right here. The top face would be all good, but these side tiles would need to be solved. So let me go ahead and make the cube to where we're solving for the side tiles, because that would be our last step in solving this cube. So, and I'm actually using the algorithm right now that we're going to use to solve for the cube. If after you do, once you're comfortable in solving that last algorithm and finding your golden fish and solving it twice more or once more to get the top all yellow, your cube should look something like this. You should have either a solid face on one side and just one tile on each of the faces that needs to be solved. If your cube is oriented like this and you have one solid face with your top as a yellow, put your solid face to your left of your cube. If your solid face is to your left of your cube, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use this algorithm next. And the algorithm on the bottom of the screen, inside the brackets, when I have the T counter or the T clock, that makes a difference when you're solving this cube, and I'm going to show you why. When we take the right side and we do it at 180 degrees to start it off, and we go into our T counter, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to move this blue tile into this spot right here, because this is our blue side. So if we move this 180, we want to move this clockwise to move this yellow into the blue area right here. You see what I'm doing right now with the cube? Because just act like we're moving this yellow over here, because we're moving that blue square right there. So we'll be moving it clockwise. If the blue side was on this side, which it wouldn't ever be, but say like we had the green tile right here, like this green tile was oriented into this spot right here, and we wanted to move it over here, we would move this up like this, and we move the green tile that way like that, if that makes sense. So once you do the 180, move your top to, that would be clockwise, to move it into this spot, then move your front and your back towards the right. Move your front and your back towards the right, which your front is going to be moving clockwise and your back's going to moving counterclockwise, right? So you're going to be moving your front and your back towards to the right, and then you're going to be rotating your right 180 degrees. Then you're going to be moving your front and your back up, so your front's going counterclockwise, your back's going clockwise, and then you're going to move your left tile, your top tile, whatever direction that you moved it at the start. So if you moved your top tile clockwise, move your top tile clockwise again, and just rotate the right, and your cube is solved. One last thing I'm going to mention. By the way, congratulations on solving your cube. One last thing I'm going to mention on this last algorithm right here. So say your cube looks something like this. We don't want the solid side. Let's make it where this side isn't solid at all. Say your cube, after you solve for the fish, say your cube looks like this and you do not have a solid side. Use that same algorithm to create a solid side. So if we want to create this green side, our solid side, or this red side, our solid side, what we want to do is we want to move this, so I'm going to make this green side my solid side. So I'm going to move this green tile over into this spot right here. So let's move that. Into that area like that. And so let's do that. Well, we just made this red side a solid side by doing that. So once we get a solid side, you just do that algorithm. It doesn't matter where your cube is oriented. You just do that algorithm and you should have a solid side after that algorithm is finished, if you don't have a solid side after you finish your golden fish. So just do that algorithm and you should have a solid side regardless of how you oriented your cube. Once you find a solid side, put your solid side to your left. And now we're going to be moving this green tile into the green spot right here. So let's just do the algorithm to move it into the green spot. And now our cube is solved. a cube is solved, right? We solved our Rubik's Cube. There's the 7 steps. They're really simple once you get to understand how the cube is. You're not solving the faces. You're solving layers and you're solving corners. Okay, so if this tutorial helped you out in any way, please drop down into the comments and let me know if this tutorial helped you out. Let me know if this tutorial helped you solve your first Rubik's Cube, or if it helped you get a better understanding of the Rubik's Cube. And if you like this video, please drop a like as well. This tutorial may not help you the first time. You might have to go through these algorithms several times before you get the hang of it. But I assure you, if you take these steps into solving this cube, you'll be solving this cube in under 5 minutes. I'm not saying you're going to be a speed solver, but you'll be able to solve this Rubik's Cube on your own, memorizing those 7 algorithms that I showed you before. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching my video. Thanks for watching my how-to YouTube video on solving a Rubik's Cube. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.